Today, when we think of castles, we think of ruined medieval fortifications and structures that are involved in conflicts such as the English Civil War, or when kings went on conquest. But we don't associate castles being used to a hugely significant effect during the Second World War. However, within the Third Reich in Hitler's Germany, there was one castle which was used for a horrific programme of mass killing and extermination. So join us today as we look at Schloss Hartheim, or Hartheim Castle, the castle used by the Nazis for mass murder. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe. Hartheim Castle was found close to Linz in Austria, where Adolf Hitler grew up. Hitler moved here during his childhood and spent most of his youth in the area before he left for Vienna. It's found in the middle of the Eferding Basin that runs by the river Danube, and it had a rich history. A castle or significant house stood there as early as the 12th century, and it passed through the hands of several owners. Up until the 1300s, the site was just one tower, and then a house was added, and it was fortified by a small wall, complete with ramparts and ditches for defence. Eventually it fell into the hands of the Aspen family, who created the castle that stands today. It's seen as a prominent Renaissance castle, and it's a large four-winged castle with towers in the corner of each, with a prominent tower in one corner. As the centuries rolled on, the castle fell into a rather poor state of affairs, and it needed a number of replacement ceilings. However, it began to be converted in the early 1900s, and vast renovation took place to convert the former Renaissance palace to become an institution for the mentally ill. However, in 1939, Adolf Hitler, following his seizure of power within Germany, issued a decree regarding euthanasia. The goal of the Nazi euthanasia program was to kill those people within the Third Reich with mental and physical disabilities, and in this mindset the Aryans would allegedly cleanse the population of those deemed by Nazi race laws to have been genetically defective and a burden to society. In the spring and summer of 1939, a number of planners began to consider the secret killing operations targeting first disabled children. By August, all doctors, nurses and midwives were to report newborn children or children with mental and physical disabilities. They then, in October, began to encourage parents of children to admit their children to a number of paediatric clinics in Germany and Austria. These were the children killing wards, where medical staff murdered young children by lethal injection or by starvation. As the scope of the operation widened, they included youths up to 17 years old, and at least 10,000 children were killed. The euthanasia program was then expanded further, and it became known as the Aktion T4 program, and there were 6 different gassing installations set up for adults to be murdered inside of. These were gas chambers in which mentally and physically disabled adults would be killed inside. Buses or trains transported patients to their deaths in the killing centres, and within hours of them arriving, they died inside the gas chambers. In all its phases, it's believed that the euthanasia program instilled by the Nazis claimed the lives of 250,000 people. Hartheim Castle was one of these centres where gas chambers were installed and where thousands were killed inside the walls. It's estimated that between May 1940 and December 1944 that approximately 30,000 people were killed at Hartheim Castle by gassing or by injection. This also included 12,000 prisoners who were sent from concentration camps such as Dachau and Mauthausen to be killed. A large amount of women from Ravensbrück were also sent to the castle to be gassed in 1944. The killings at the castle continued even when the law regarding euthanasia was rescinded, and Jews, communists and others considered undesirable were killed there. Those who worked inside of camps and were deemed unfit to work were also executed at the castle. This saw Hartheim become part of the Action 14F13 plan, where concentration camp prisoners were executed. On average, well over 1,000 mentally ill and physically disabled people were being executed at Hartheim in a month, and it was linked to the Aktion T4 program, and the bodies of those were then burned inside the crematoria. The castle was regularly visited by notorious Nazi doctors, such as Karl Brandt, who carried out inspections of the facility and also helped in the killing. The use of the gas chambers was operated by doctors at the time, so those who were previously responsible for saving lives were now taking them. Many doctors used fake names to hide their real identities in documents, knowing that after the war, the crimes of mass murder would catch up with them. The head doctor at Hartheim was Rudolf Leonauer, who worked for 5 years there, and the deputy was George Renault. There were many other staff that worked there. Erwin Lambert oversaw the building of the gas chambers and crematoria at the castle, and there were other doctors involved in the killing process. Franz Reitleitner and Franz Stangl, who worked there as managers, later became commandants of Sobibor and Treblinka extermination camps. There were other lower-ranking staff who were there to help the killing process. Whilst inside the castle, even the second cousin of Adolf Hitler was killed inside the gas chambers, and a number of priests and members of the clergy in occupied lands, particularly Poland, were killed. As the Second World War came to an end, to hide the crimes that were being committed at Hartheim Castle, the extermination centre was closed and it was restored to becoming a sanatorium. The Nazis then also cleared any evidence of the crimes that had been committed there. They tried to mask their crimes and they tore down the majority of the infrastructure involved in the killing process. They tried to conceal what truly happened there, but many of the doctors and members of staff who took part of the killing at Hartheim were imprisoned and sentenced to death after being found guilty of crimes against humanity and murder. The castle was later converted into apartments, but today it remains a memorial to those thousands of people who were murdered inside the walls of the castle at the hands of the Nazis. So Hartheim is a castle with an incredibly dark and sadistic history, linked to one of the most evil regimes that the world has ever seen. When you look at the building from the outside, without knowing its history, you would regard it as a beautiful Renaissance castle, but the crimes that occurred there have tarnished it as a site associated like Auschwitz and concentration camps with mass murder and depravity. Once again, thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.